From the Lioness announcing her retirement at UFC 289, to the massive reset the Octagon will face after losing its best female fighter, here's everything you need to know about Amanda Nunes' MMA retirement. It all went down at UFC 289 after defending her title versus Irene Aldana. The 35-year-old Dynamo did what she does best, defending her bantamweight championship in style, with a unanimous decision win over Irene Aldana at UFC 289. And right after the fight is when she dropped a bombshell announcement that she was going to retire from fighting. Nunes had been an absolute powerhouse in the world of mixed martial arts for the past 9 years. I mean, seriously, she's been nearly unstoppable. Just look at her record. 14 wins out of her last 15 bouts. And you know what's even more impressive? She avenged her only loss too, when she defeated Juliana Pena to reclaim the bantamweight title at UFC 277. But here's the thing. Despite having a Hall of Fame-worthy resume and being arguably the greatest women's fighter in UFC history, people have been questioning her hunger to stay on top. UFC President Dana White didn't hold back when he openly expressed his doubts before Nunes' rematch with Pena. According to White, Amanda's financial status has changed significantly. She's a multi-millionaire now, folks. Plus, she's got a baby and her life has evolved. Some folks think that maybe she's not as hungry and savage as she used to be when she first embarked on her journey to become a world champion. There are a lot of variables to work here, you know. But regardless of the speculation, I can't deny the incredible legacy Nunes leaves behind. She's a true champion. And now, as she steps away from the Octagon, fans can only look back and appreciate the remarkable impact she's had on the sport. Nunes will definitely be missed, but her name will forever be etched in the history books of the UFC. After all, she's had one of the most amazing careers in MMA history. It's safe to say the Lioness has been nothing short of one of MMA's all-time greats. Her opponents have been left wide-eyed, and her fans have been roaring with excitement. She's a force to be reckoned with in women's mixed martial arts, with a record of 27 professional fights under her belt. Now let's talk about her debut. Back on March 8, 2008, Nunes first stepped into the cage at Prime MMA Championship 2. Unfortunately, things didn't go her way that night, and she ended up losing in the first round to Anna Maria's armbar submission. Ouch. But hey, she didn't let that setback define her. Fast forward to January 7, 2011. Nunes made her debut in Strikeforce at Strikeforce Challengers Woodley vs. Safadine, and boy did she make an entrance. She knocked out Julia Budd in a lightning-fast 14 seconds. That victory set the stage for her future successes. Of course, she faced some hurdles along the way. One of them was a foot injury that led to the cancellation of her fight with Julie Kedzie at Strikeforce Overeem vs. Verdum. But you know what? Nunes didn't lose her focus or determination. She was hell-bent on showcasing her skills to the world. Then came September 10, 2011, and Nunes went head-to-head with Alexis Davis at Strikeforce Barnett vs. Karatanov. She fought with all her might, but in the end, she lost the fight via TKO in the second round. No doubt about it, swallowing that truth was a real toughie. But guess what? It didn't break her spirit. In fact, she refused to let that defeat keep her down. Things got a bit tricky for her in Invicta FC with all the changes in her opponents. But she eventually locked horns with Raquel Pahalui at Invicta FC 2, and she secured a victory in the first round with a slick rear naked choke for a technical submission. But she also had her fair share of setbacks, like her loss to Sarah D'Alelio. In a unanimous decision, it was evident where she didn't quite measure up. But the Lioness wasn't about to let a defeat define her. She made her grand entrance into the Octagon at UFC 163, going toe-to-toe with Sheila Gaff, and she wasted no time in showing off her skills. She ended that fight with a bang and clinched a TKO victory. Nunes kept the momentum going with another first-round TKO, this time against Germaine de Randamie at UFC Fight Night 31. Throughout her UFC career, she faced some legendary fighters and came out on top. Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Holly Holm, Chris Cyborg, you name it, she conquered them. And how can you forget when she made history as the first openly gay UFC champion, shattering barriers and inspiring others with her incredible accomplishments? Now, here's a milestone moment. Nunes held 2 championship belts in different weight divisions, following her triumph over Chris Cyborg at UFC 232. She emerged as the new holder of the UFC Women's Featherweight Championship. It was a groundbreaking triumph that solidified her status as a true legend in the sport. Sure, she experienced a setback against Juliana Pena at UFC 269, where she lost her bantamweight title. But you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and Nunes is the living embodiment of that. She bounced back and reclaimed her title in their rematch at UFC 277. Now, get this. There was a highly anticipated trilogy bout between Nunes and Pena, scheduled for UFC 289, but Pena had to withdraw due to broken ribs. But guess what? Irene Aldana stepped in as a replacement, showcasing Nunes' ability to adapt and take on new challenges head-on. That's the kind of fighter she is, always ready to face whatever comes her way. Because of this, her retirement will likely have a huge impact. For one, the women's featherweight division will probably end with it. She might just go down in history as the last ever featherweight champ in the company's books. Because get this, UFC President Dana White hinted that the 145-pound division might be going bye-bye. When he was asked if they would shut down the division, the dude straight up said, probably yes. Whoa, White dropped his own bombshell of his own. Apparently, Nunes made it crystal clear that she was hanging up her gloves right after the fight. So while it's not officially confirmed yet, it totally makes sense, you know? And now with Nunes retiring, the women's bantamweight title is just sitting there up for its next champ. And the UFC hasn't made a decision on who will fight for it. Now let's rewind a bit. The UFC introduced the women's featherweight class after signing Chris Cyborg. But it was Germaine de Randamie who snagged the title first back in 2017. But she got stripped of the belt, and then Cyborg took over, defending it twice before Nunes came in like a wrecking ball and claimed it for herself. The thing is, there just weren't enough featherweights on the roster to create official rankings at 145 pounds, so Nunes had to bounce around different weight classes to protect her titles. They even went as far as doing a season of The Ultimate Fighter to find more featherweights, but sadly, most of them aren't in the division anymore. Nunes' retirement is a huge deal for more than one reason. She's been an absolute legend in the sport, making history as a dominant champion. Her exit represents the end of an era and leaves some big shoes to fill in the UFC. I'm talking about a fighter who has achieved so much and has left an indelible mark on the sport of mixed martial arts. Finding someone like that isn't gonna be easy, and so it's fair to say her retirement has completely reset the octagon. Nunes just made a grand entrance into the elite club of MMA fighters who retire at the top. The best female MMA fighter of all time. She laid both of her hard-earned titles on the octagon floor and placed her gloves right beside them, signaling the end of an era. Now that Nunes is out of the picture, the UFC women's bantamweight and featherweight titles are wide open for the taking. It's time for new faces to rise up the ranks and claim their spots at the top. And Nunes had some bold words about her successors. She didn't hold back when she said, "The next champion is gonna be the real one. It's gonna be fake forever. Whoever wears the belt now will just be pretending to hold it. I'm gone." It was truly a mic drop moment. She was an absolute wrecking ball in the octagon, defeating 11 former champions in the sport. Amanda shattered every single women's record in the UFC and took down some legendary opponents along the way. She was like the Atlas of women's mixed martial arts, carrying the weight of the division on her shoulders, at least within the UFC. And it's definitely going to be fun to see how things get shaken up now that she's gone. So from the massive reset the Octagon is now facing after losing its best female fighter, to the Lioness announcing her retirement at UFC 289, that was everything you need to know about Amanda's MMA retirement.